The Experts with Kristen Levine. On today's show, Dr. Callie Harris, Victoria Stillwell, Dr. Ernie Ward, Walter Brown.
Hi friends, I'm Kristen Levine and welcome back to The Experts, the show where top minds in pet care come together to answer questions that pet parents really want to know. Now, we're here to help you keep your pets happy, healthy, and thriving. Now, you can always send us your own question by visiting dogtv.com/experts, and there you can upload a video of your question and you might be featured in a future episode. Let's meet today's incredible panel. All right, we have Dr. Callie Harris. She's a dedicated veterinarian with a background in emergency medicine and a passion for nutrition education. She's been featured in national campaigns and brings a relatable, compassionate voice to pet wellness. Welcome, Dr. Harris.
Thanks for having me.
And Dr. Ernie Ward, America's Pet Advocate. We're happy to have you, a leading voice in preventative pet care, fitness, and longevity. You are the founder of the Association for Pet Obesity Prevention and a regular guest on talk shows and media platforms, including this one right here. And also joining us is Victoria Stillwell, internationally recognized dog trainer, behavior expert, and star and creator of It's Me or the Dog. Victoria's force-free training philosophy has changed the way the world relates to training. Welcome, Victoria.
Thank you.
And rounding out the panel is our fan favorite, Walter Brown, aka Skinny Go Live. Walter's a registered veterinary technologist whose videos have educated and entertained pet lovers everywhere. His on-the-ground experience brings a unique and relatable voice to our panel. So welcome, Walter.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and before I set the show up for the viewers, I just wanted to ask you a question.
Sure.
Because your content on social media is primarily funny,
right?
What makes veterinary medicine so funny?
Oh my gosh. How much time we got?
Yeah, right?
Owners. I love owners.
Yes.
We used to have this thing, and I will be honest, it's one of those things where people used to say, I got into veterinary medicine because I don't like people, because I like the pets.
Yes.
I was one of those folks, but then as I learned to understand my emotional intelligence, I learned emotional intelligence. I learned that the pet parents are some of the best parents. So give me a pet parent any day and not the patient, because you never know what funny things you'll hear, right? Some of my favorite parents are the older little ladies with the little older dogs. You never know what they'll say, especially in the South. So I love the pet parents. Love the
So
pet
your
parents.
pet parents are an endless supply of content.
Oh, content. They are my content creators for sure. Pet parents.
Fantastic. Okay, so we have a fresh round of your submitted questions today from real pet parents like you. We're going to have 4 questions on the show today. We have 4 guests, and they have 4 minutes to answer each question to help our 4-legged friends. Does that sound good?
Fours here.
Okay. This comes to us from Ray in San Diego.
Hi experts, I'm planning to introduce a new pet to my household to go with my dog Rosie. What steps should I take to ensure a smooth transition?
Steps for a smooth transition to add a new pet to the home with Rosie. Victoria, I'll come to you first on this one.
Okay. Not every single trainer espouses to this, but I love that you allow the dogs to greet off territory. Mm-hmm. So in some neutral ground. And I always do it on leash first, but making those leashes very light so there's not a lot of tension. And then when you see that this behavior and that they're behaving well towards each other and that they're starting to accept each other, only then do you take the leashes off. But if you think things are going a little bit feisty, what I like to do is maybe sometimes have them greet through a fence first and then have them go, not just nose to nose, because that can sometimes set things off, but have one dog follow the other. And then swap, have the other dog follow the other so they can get their scent, they can kind of get their, dogs obviously pick up a lot on smell, so they get a lot of information from that. But that's how I would do it first. Take it easy, take it slow.
Excellent advice. Can you add to that, Dr.
Yeah,
Harris?
for sure. I will even go back to even before we have these pets together, do your research, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I'm a big proponent, big supporter of breed education. And when I say breed education, I'm not just talking about purpose bred, I'm talking about all breeds, mixed breeds, right? Individual breeds. And so do your research, get educated on whichever type of dog that you or pet that you want to bring in. Look at your environment. Are you going to be a 2-pet parent or pet guardian household, or are you the only one, right? Do you live in a house? Do you live in an apartment? Do you have a fenced in backyard? So there's like a laundry list of questions that I take my clients or, my pet guardians through before we even get to the point of an introduction.
Yeah, very smart. Do your research.
Yeah,
Dr. Ward?
and I'll add to that list. I'll take it in a slightly different direction from a medical perspective. Make sure everybody's protected against communicable and infectious diseases. Make sure that there's no parasites that are going to be transmitted from one dog to the other. I mean, I know this sounds elementary and basic, but too often that's where we encounter the problems. People just forget it or assume that it's already been taken care of, and suddenly now we have roundworms throughout the family. And so, I would really say, in addition to the behavioral issues, to make sure that the medical coverage is there as well.
Okay, excellent.
Nailed it.
Walter?
First thing you should do is you sit that dog down and you say, listen, you got a new brother and a new sister coming in, and you're gonna act like you love them. No, seriously. But no, all the experts hit those points, right? But the thing that I tell people all the time, I think we forget that we love dogs, and most people don't have one dog in the house. They usually have 2 or 3, and they come in staggered forms, right? So it's always good to make sure you socialize your dog with other dogs first before introducing, because if they can't get along with other dogs, how would they get along with a new housemate in the home, right?
Yeah.
We made that mistake. We have a little corgi that we didn't spend a whole lot of time introducing her. Now she thinks she's the bully in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So not that she doesn't like other dogs, but we have to be cautious about introducing these dogs versus our Pitty, who loves everyone and loves all the dogs. He's like, bring me any dog, I love them.
Right.
So again, socializing these guys early is a big proponent of it.
And one quick thing to add is, I'm a big fan of multi-dog households in particular, but especially as your dog starts to enter into its senior years, if you're thinking about adding a second dog, that's the perfect time. No, because they transmit some of those traits. It just makes house training so much easier. So, I think sometimes I see clients that wait too late, almost when the dog is very frail. And so I'd like for them to maybe transition a little earlier.
And also I think the way you make it works is that to give each dog, even if it's a multi-dog household, some alone time.
Absolutely.
Every dog needs a bit of alone time, a bit of chew time every day, separated. That will keep everybody.
Yes.
Great.
Yes, excellent advice. And Victoria, I did want to ask you, I was reading Positively, your website, and you talk a lot about learning how your dogs think, feel, and learn.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, I think you understand the individual dog.
Yeah.
Truly, because they are individual dogs. They're not really choosing each other. You're choosing them for your household and for your needs. So that's why I was like, really think from their point of view, like, what is this situation? So you're saying, don't wait till your dog's really old. Get another dog when your dog still has some, some energy in them. And also, if you've got a really elderly dog, maybe a puppy's not the right breed.
Right.
Excellent advice. All right, let's go to our second question. This comes from Emily in Michigan.
Hey experts, I noticed some changes in my pet's behavior, and I'm concerned that they just might be in pain. What signs should I look for to determine if they're uncomfortable?
Oh, gosh.
Okay, I'm going to come to Dr. Harris on that first.
Sure.
We're not sure if she's talking about a dog or a cat.
Right. Okay.
But in general.
Across the board, I mean, when is it time, to be concerned? Now.
Yeah.
Like if you have a question, like if there's ever a question about your pet, and I'll always harp on this, establishing a fabulous relationship with your vet professionals is always going to be key. But I think that if we're looking for like actual tangible signs, right? So when you notice that your pet is doing something opposite of what they normally do, so maybe they're not as interested or invested in that tiny human that's in the household, or they're not wanting to go outside as much, or maybe they stop eating or their appetite drops, right? If there's changes in their mentation, if there's changes in their activity level, I mean, the list can go on and on. But I would say anytime a pet parent is concerned, that's always a great time to go seek advice.
Yeah, I say trust your intuition. I think we co-evolved with dogs for 50 or 60,000 years, so we know them pretty well. So, and again, same for cats, a little bit more aloof, but we know when there's something just not right. So don't allow anyone to gaslight you, don't allow anyone to dismiss your concerns. But back to sort of the tangible things you can look at, changes in diet and behavior, right? Changes in going to the bathroom, potty patrol, it can be a big sign. And changes in sleep and wake cycles. Those can all indicate disturbances in pain or physiology.
Excellent.
If you see a sudden change in behavior, this is where the relationship with your veterinarian is absolutely key.
Yeah.
And I think all trainers as well, trainers that are watching this, need to know that if there's a sudden change in behavior, the first stop is not your training plan, the first stop is your veterinarian.
Yeah.
But I also, there's been really interesting studies in the UK that have shown in this particular research that 80% of the dogs with aggression issues that went to this particular surgery had some kind of undiagnosed pain or discomfort.
Yeah.
So aggression, especially when we're looking at that behavior in dogs, there is a huge pain component there.
Yeah, especially when it's an older dog that's always been loving and caring, and then suddenly they snap. That's the first thing I look at is osteoarthritis, pain joints.
True.
Well, very, very good points. History taking for me, history taking and physical exams are two of the biggest things I harp on with my veterinary nurses and technicians that actually, when these dogs come in, and the proponent of the history taken from the owner is extremely important. And a few different examples. I had an owner a few weeks ago. She's like, my dog just isn't right. Owners know when their dog is not right.
Yeah.
And I was like, what made him not right? He's just not wagging his tail like he used to. Well, this dog spent all day the day before swimming. So he had what we call swimmer's tail, right?
Yes.
So there's a thing called swimmer tail, and this dog was in pain because
That happened to my dog, and I didn't know it was a thing.
it's a thing. So this is the thing where we want, if we're asking open-ended questions, we want to get as much information as we can from you. Had an owner a couple weeks ago, heard like, my dog isn't right. What is wrong with him? Prostatitis. These dogs can smell dogs in heat miles out, right? And this dog got prostatitis just from dogs being in heat, and he was in pain, and he didn't want to walk around in his home. So it's about for me, history taking and getting a lot of information from your owners is extremely
But let
important.
me ask about cats, because cats are better at masking pain than dogs are.
What I say a lot of times about cats, good luck, number one. But this is actually where it is really important to continue or establish those yearly or even bi-yearly exams. And people sometimes forget about this, especially with our feline friends, especially if they're indoor, right? And people feel like, well, we only come in for vaccines, but this is why we drive home the point to see often, because we can do physical exams and understand a little bit more what's going on the inside.
And that's why I mentioned potty behaviors, because again, a cat that has elimination problems or going outside of the litter box on the carpet or whatever, I got to tell you, the first thing I think about is there an underlying medical condition, pain or physiology?
And again, like they said, cats are mysterious, right? A cat that's hiding a lot, that's usually out and about, we should be concerned. And also always check your cat's mouth. It seems like oral dental problems are one of their biggest proponents. A lot of them get canned food. Some of them do get hard food. But a lot, I figure, and Ernie could probably, speak to this better than me, but I feel like a lot of them get a lot of oral diseases or whatnot. And that's usually one of those deals with cats. A cat hiding, cat with dental disease. That's a painful cat.
And finicky cats.
And finicky cats, absolutely.
So a cat that suddenly stops eating their favorite food, I look for oral pain.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, excellent. And before we go to our next question, Dr. Callie, I wanted to just ask you, I read that most veterinarians that I meet knew they wanted to be veterinarians from the time they were children, but not you.
Not this one. So really interesting with that. I've always loved animals from the start, right? And I am very, happy to say that I came from, two parents that were very tolerable. They tolerated, my passion for pets, because I would bring all the ragamuffins inside. We all probably have very similar stories like this, but really I've always had a passion for science. And so when I started undergrad, I was actually biology major, thinking I was going to go into human medicine. And then I actually had, an old roommate. She said to me, you are an absolute psychopath when it comes to pets. Why are you not pursuing vet med? And it was like something went off in me. And I will always say, and this is a big part of what I do from an education standpoint, representation is key. And so I go back to the historical aspect. I didn't ever meet a veterinarian that looked like me.
That's fantastic. All right, we're going to go to our next viewer question. This one comes from Beth in Ohio.
Hi, I'm Beth Miller, and this is Harper. In the springtime especially, she sometimes gets a little teary-eyed and wondered if there was some kind of supplement or daily regimen that we could take on that would help her have clean and clear eyes for the springtime and summer.
All right.
That's another one, how much time you have.
Teary eyes.
There's a lot that's going on here. And I'll tell you, most likely this is seasonal allergies or atopy. And red, runny, teary eyes, that's like one of the most common clinical signs that we see in dogs. So supplements and things like that, I'm not sure I'm going to go that route. I'm going to say talk to your veterinarian, because what you also don't want to confuse this with is actually an ocular problem, an ulcer or something else, an infection, as opposed to just seasonal allergies. So check with your vet anytime. And I'll tell you that the problem with eyes, as you and I know all too well, especially in the emergency setting, is they go from normal to complete blindness and irreparable, within hours. And so, I don't want people to wait and delay whenever possible. So there are tons of great medications that we can use. I mean, oral medications, topical medications. So we have a lot of things. Don't forget also, if you have that dog wasn't one, but if you have one of these pugs or smush-faced dogs, brachycephalics, they can also have eyelids and eyelashes that grow down into the eye and cause irritation. So there could be a physical cause for it. We see dogs out west that get foxtails and all kind of foreign objects. So again, whenever I see eye problems, talk to your vet.
So even if it is seasonal, talk to your vet, and because it also could be something else that's unrelated.
If it's a new problem, right? Like if this is something that you're just noticing, then 100% get that stamp of approval from your veterinarian before we start dabbling with supplements. Now, probably where the young lady was going with supplements, a lot of people think about tear staining. And there's a lot of thoughts around how to help support that. There's a lot of anecdotal information. And so I don't know if anybody has any thoughts or insights into it, but I definitely feel like tear staining can be the bane of a lot of our pet parents' existence.
As I used to have a Shih Tzu, so I can tell you that.
Just, real quick, again, allergies is a loaded, it's like, that's a road that you got to travel down, allergies, whether it's environmental or food. I did have a funny situation. Again, I tell you, I love pet parents because they just bring so much joy and content. I had one lady down in the South where Ernie and I are from. And in the South, they don't like to take their rabies tags off their collars for some reason. And this young lady, had the whole issue where she was like, my dog is itching. So we set her up for allergy testing or whatnot. And we noticed after going through the regimen, she didn't come back the third week. And we were like, where has she been? So I gave her a call and she finally came in. I was like, where you been? We want to know how the allergies are doing. She's like, well, I fixed it myself. I was like, well, how did you fix it? She's like, well, I just took his collar off. I don't have to hear him going ching, 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 ching.
Oh my goodness.
So that didn't fix the problem, but it fixed her problem. And it fixed her problem, right? So again, with allergies, it can be environmental, it can be food. So it is, I will tell people you have to be diligent. If you're going to say, I want to figure out what's causing this dog, stay the course. It could be a long course, but stay the course. And just don't take his collar off.
And one funny anecdote to tell you how true this is, I can't tell you how many clients I've seen, Walter, over the years that would keep every rabies tag on there. That's how they knew how old their dog was.
Absolutely. 1, 2, 3. It's annoying. It's annoying for your dog.
Victoria, that's what I always thought. I thought, gosh.
It's true.
I'm more concerned about that being annoying for my dog. Just walking around everywhere they go, they can't. Ding, 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 ding. Wow.
Right next to that.
Well, and you said you had a Shih Tzu, so you obviously dealt with the tear staining a lot.
Tear staining drove me crazy. I mean, I'm doing filtered water. I'm doing as much as I can.
And this, I want someone to check me on this, but I do believe in the power of probiotics. I do believe in a healthy gut, and so that is something. I'm not saying it's going to fix it, but might as well,
give it a shot.
The power of probiotics.
Right, I totally agree. Tear staining is a more complicated issue, and so unfortunately, this is part of those breeds. And hey, it's our own fault. We bred them that way.
Right.
That's right.
That's the big point.
And if you choose a light-colored one, you're really in for it. All right, experts. Let's go to our fourth question from Holly in Tennessee.
Hi experts, I'm Holly and this is B, and I'm wondering, how do I convince my puppy she is not a shark and she doesn't need to attack my face with her razor sharp teeth? Please help.
Oh goodness.
Looks like a shark to me.
Looks like a shark, This is such a common question for new puppy parents. Victoria, I'll let you take it first.
A lot of play happens away from you. A lot of chewing happens away from you. And that's how we start to get puppies stopping doing this and going away and more playing a little bit more independently or having games from you that are sending them away. Do you see what I mean?
I do.
But also I teach all puppies that this is not going to be good. As soon as you do this, play stops. As soon as you do this, play stops. I'm not telling them off. I don't shout at them, nothing like that. It's just, oh, okay, we're done. And very soon you'll find a dog that starts to inhibit. And then when they do, play continues.
Awesome. Can you tell my wife that?
Yeah. Walter, do you have anything?
I mean,
sounds like you've got some personal
I got
experience.
the same problem as the shark. No, but as we stated, like, you know, again, like knowing, starting early, right, to stop some of these things, and again, getting with folks like Victoria and different behaviorists and trainers, I think that's a big proponent of it, right? Just going ahead and again, this is a younger puppy, right? And it's better to go ahead and get that information starting now, whether you talk to someone in your clinic or a trainer, you just go ahead and get some ideas on what we can do. But again, I'm in the same boat as Victoria.
Dr. Ward?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I totally agree with you, Victoria, here. We do want to separate. We need to create some distance. What I find very frustrating is this, so many of my clients, they'll engage in these types of behaviors as puppies that carry on the rest of their life. And so I'll be in the exam room and they're just nipping. And, you know, it's not only is it distracting, but I've realized, wow, there's other issues probably that are going to go on. The other thing, too, that I just want to caution this particular person is these behaviors tend to escalate in my experience. So what might be a playful nip now can really turn into aggression and damage later. So I'm particularly sensitive to these types of issues where I want to work with you, my trainer, as quickly as possible, because if we don't stop this now, I can have really serious problems and abandonment later.
And I think you're right about that, because I want these puppies to know that I still want them to be able to play and I want them to be able to chew, but I also want them to know, even from an early age, that you can't do it on me. But there are other toys, great toys that you'll be able to, because puppies need to do it. But you see with her, she's holding the puppy and playing close. That's going to be an issue.
Right.
Yeah, and I would say that they've all hit on this, but like the engagement pieces, the distraction opportunities, the positive reinforcement. I just went through this with my own puppy, Rocco. I also have a small human child in my household, so it was even more important and imperative that Rocco learned, right, for, you know, his sister, right, to ensure that they had a lasting relationship. So what really worked and what I discovered through working with a trainer is also distraction and, you know, that positive reinforcement when they inhibited and they learned, and then it's like, great, you did a good job, here you go, there's your reward.
And again, what I love about your whole ethos is this positivity, right? Because this is how dogs are learning about the world. You know, I mean, this is their way of investigating. We do it tactile through sensation of feeling and grasping, but dogs are going to use their mouth in that way. And so we don't want to curtail or inhibit, because I loved your points there, but we also want to make sure that they do it in the correct way, you know, with not chewing on your fingers and hands.
Because this is just dog behavior.
It's
a lot of dog behavior is behavior we don't like.
And to the point where we think it's, you know, one of those things, like he's just playing or whatnot, but we got to remember that these pets will be continually coming into the vet office, right? And we don't want this to be something perpetual where now you have, because I've seen these puppies be little nippers, and now we have to ask for a muzzle before we come into the exam room, right? So we want to, and I was going to ask you all as like veterinarians on the floor, when these puppies come in and this occurs, do you all correct it, or do you kind of, like if they're nipping you while you're doing the exam, do you kind of correct it, or do you say something to the owner, or how do you handle those situations? If you
me personally, I ignore it as much as possible.
Don't acknowledge it in that sense,
and separate, remove myself. That's right. And I'll tell you, you know, you did mention a good thing. I mean, a lot of times we do have to go to a soft muzzle or something, because
or chemical restraints if we need it.
So,
you know.
But I do try to counsel the client to say, hey, we need to, you know, we have a great trainer we work with. I think this is worth your time.
I want to make sure we nip this.
That's a wrap on another packed episode of The Experts. A huge thank you to our panel, Dr. Callie Harris, Victoria Stillwell, Dr. Ernie Ward, and Walter Brown for your insight and compassion for animals. Keep sending us your questions. All you have to do is videotape yourself asking the question and send it to us at dogtv.com/experts. Until next time, I'm Kristen Levine, and this has been The Experts, where pet lovers get real answers from the people who know pets best.